This is Southern Cross News with Joe Palmer.
Good evening everyone and welcome to Southern Cross News. There's a standoff tonight between Tasmanian public sector workers and the government over what unions say is an insulting 2% pay rise for staff. While the government says it's a fair deal, unions could take industrial action if more money isn't put on the negotiating table.
Public sector unions standing together, vowing to fight for higher wages.
They have been giving and giving and giving, coping with short-term contracts, increasing workloads. They have been squeezed dry and they've got nothing left to give.
The government has formally offered public sector staff a 2% pay rise for the next 3 years. Today standing firm on the offer, despite a wall of opposition.
A guaranteed 2% per year we believe is fair and affordable, but still we go to the table with unions in good faith through the normal negotiation process.
What this says is that the Tasmanian government doesn't value the efforts and our nurses and midwives going above and beyond to ensure patient safety and the quality of care.
Unions say the increase should be at least 3%, but the government says a wage increase of just 1% would cost an extra $28 million per year.
Our members know better than anyone what it feels like to have to exercise budget restraint, and they can't do that anymore. You know, their budgets are bursting at the seams.
We are sick of a bullying government that basically says, you take it or leave it.
The group not ruling out industrial action if nothing changes.
Public sector union members are united and we will fight and fight and fight until we see the end of this wages policy.
We already have some of the lowest paid nurses, teachers and firefighters in the country, and if we don't pay fair wages, we will continue to have a crisis in our public services in Tasmania.
We believe that we've got a fair and affordable offer on the table. That's something that is in line with Tasmania managing its budget well.
Michelle Wisby, Southern Cross News. Heeding the warnings, this young Glen Hewen family today having their vaccinations.
We are just trying to meet the demand here.
They're in the age group to receive free meningococcal immunisations as part of a government-funded program.
We have to use the best evidence to target our vaccine where we think we can have the most effect.
People aged between 6 weeks and 20 years old and living in Hobart's northern suburbs are eligible, as they've been determined as the most susceptible.
There's more meningococcal bacteria being passed from person to person in the community, and occasionally one in perhaps 100 people who encounters the germ will become sick with it.
It's absolutely the right decision in order to build herd immunity.
Doctors ramping up their calls for the free program to be extended to all age groups and rural communities. Half of the 6 cases diagnosed over the last 3 weeks are older people, while 4 of them are from the northern suburbs.
So we need to make an effort to make it possible for them, to have access to the vaccine, and for that it should be publicly available.
We've had our Health Minister speaking to the Commonwealth Government about them taking a greater role in providing subsidy to make more of these sorts of vaccinations available to more Australians and Tasmanians.
The calls follow confirmation a 66-year-old Claremont man is being treated for the Y strain at the Royal Hobart Hospital. It's understood he's in a stable condition.
It's unrelated to the previous cases of meningococcal infection that have occurred.
The Derwent Entertainment Centre is hosting a mass vaccination clinic over the weekend. While there are some spots available, people can also visit a doctor or some pharmacies. Tasmanians reminded to be vigilant if they're feeling unwell, including fever, aches and pains and headaches.
That in most instances, with early diagnosis and treatment, people can be return to good health. Unfortunately, it's one of those infections where occasionally people get desperately sick very quickly and occasionally people will die.
Louise Hedger, Southern Cross News.
A 73-year-old man has died after a tractor incident at Glengarry. Police and emergency services were called to the private property at around 10:40 this morning. The man died at the scene. Police are investigating the incident and a report will be prepared for the coroner. A coroner has ruled the death of a Tasmanian man who fell from the roof of King Island Airport was completely avoidable. 28-year-old Kurt Gorey was working as a roof plumber when he fell to his death on December 8, 2014. The coroner ruled the incident was an avoidable tragedy and the fall that would have not occurred if basic safety precautions had been taken. The coroner also recommended a review of the training processes within the construction industry apprenticeship scheme be carried out. A 25-year-old woman has been charged over an armed robbery at a Glenorchy shopping centre. Police say a woman brandishing a knife demanded cash from staff at Target Northgate yesterday morning. She made off on foot with an unspecified amount. No staff members were injured. Last night, police confirmed the arrest of a 25-year-old woman in relation to the incident. Tasmania's hemp seed industry is already proving to be a lucrative business for farmers, but many are predicting this is just the start of what will be a booming sector. With the state's poppy industry hitting hard times, dozens of farmers are now in the market for change, with hemp seeds an appealing transition.
Ted Jones was a poppy farmer for almost 2 decades and weathered the highs and lows of what was once Tassie's booming industry. But with poppy contracts not what they once were, he's been looking for alternatives.
I went through the poppy high and I think it's got the potential of being that within a couple of years, yes.
He's now started up Red Agriculture with 2 friends and says hemp is the next big thing.
This became an option to look at. In a very short time, it's gone from being an interesting venture to being possibly a very, very lucrative business opportunity.
They have big plans too, aiming to plant 1,500 hectares of seeds this year. And to give that some context, last year only 450 hectares of seeds were planted across the state. Ted says it's now only a matter of time before other poppy farmers make the switch, with roughly 200 additional growers needed to keep up with demand.
They've already got all the farms, the infrastructure and the knowledge to grow crops. And they are going to be our target market.
Overall, though, it's hoped 2,000 hectares will be planted this year, with the seed rapidly growing in popularity.
The vegetarians love it because it's so high in protein, and it's got omega-3, 6 and 9 oils, and it's a great health food. And people are just starting to get the hang of using it. Put it on your porridge or in a salad, and it tastes great.
Growing hemp for food in Australia was legalised in November last year, and since then more than $2 million has been invested to get the industry here up and running. Quite timely, given 2018 is looking like it'll be a bumper crop.
There are people in the industry that are looking for product, so it's quite a solid start for the season.
Jessica Moran, Southern Cross News.
The current health of the Tamar Estuary and Esk rivers is worse than expected, with new research revealing an overall decline compared to this time 2 years ago. The latest report card by NRM North shows the health of the waterway has deteriorated significantly. This is the worst result in 7 years, with the June 2016 flood event being blamed for not a single zone scoring higher than a B+.
It's not surprising. What we find is that the seasonal variation and climatic conditions can have a heavy drive or influence the grades and the water quality and the ecosystem health.
Stakeholders say moving forward from here will involve additional funding and an all-in response from several government agencies and councils. The Hobart City Council is set to discuss a proposal for the Mount Wellington cable car behind closed doors next Thursday. But the council and company are keeping tight-lipped on what the proposal is. Some aldermen are now calling for the meeting to be open to the public in the name of transparency. The company didn't comment today, but it's understood more details will be made public before the closed meeting. It's been reported the South Hobart Tib could be a new location for the controversial project's base station. The government remains confident it can supply 400 new affordable homes in the next 12 months, as promised in its ambitious Affordable Housing Action Plan. New data reveals that in the last 3 months, the government has opened 143 new social houses and made 34 new beds available for homeless youth.
I think that gives us all confidence that the targets we've got for the next year are very much achievable, even in this very busy residential construction environment that we've got right now.
The update came as Tasmania's peak real estate body revealed the last 3 months were the most profitable on record, with more than $1 billion worth of properties sold across Tasmania. The Tassie Devils is the clear frontrunner in a new poll to decide a name for Tasmania's VFL and TAC Cup teams. The public and past players are throwing their support behind the identity rather than opting for a fresh approach.
With a clean slate, Tasmanians have the chance to turn in old identities and choose a new name, one covering all Guernseys, from junior teams to the TAC Cup and VFL sides.
If it ends up being the Devils or the Mariners, I think they're still pretty strong brands, but I'd really like to see another name or two thrown amongst the mix that was really be considered.
Ideas are flowing in from footy fans. As expected, the former VFL side's moniker, the Devils, is proving to be popular, but some suggest the native quoll should get a Guernsey. Away from animals, the Tassie Titans is gathering pace. Some fans are suggesting a sponsorship symbol crossover, while one user likes the sound of the Tassie McLaughlins.
There is a selection panel to make sure that we don't get some really creative name.
It's now been 10 years since Tasmania played at VFL level. The farewell match at Blunston Arena closed with an emotional send-off. The side's former skipper Brett Gapin can't wait to see the side revived in 2021.
I've got real fond memories of the whole time I played with the Devils. So hopefully whatever name it is, and hopefully it's the Devils from my point of view, but just that the state gets behind it and we get those big crowds again and everyone being positive about footy again.
While past coach Lance Spalding
This is how we're structuring up.
remembers the great pride in the Guernsey.
Absolutely, and I think so do all the players and everyone that was involved with the whole program.
A panel will cut down the list of name ideas before a public poll decides the final winner.
To play week in, week out footy for your states is different than playing one-off games.
Tom Johnson, Southern Cross News.
A living tribute to Tasmania's fallen diggers has reached a major milestone, with the Soldiers Memorial Avenue turning 100. It had faded with neglect over those years, but has now been lovingly restored by the community.
The last post and the sound of gunfire ringing out from Queen's Domain, as people turned out to mark 100 years of the Soldiers Memorial Avenue.
There was a very strong commitment by the families that they wanted it to survive, to remember their loved ones. I think they'd be very pleased to see that 100 years on, so many people are coming out to remember.
There's 535 trees lining the path, each one standing as a living memorial to a Tasmanian killed in World War I.
As you walk along and you look at the plaques and the trees, you reflect on the stories of the men that are behind them, we know that every day we have to make sure we are people worthy of such sacrifices.
It's a memorial to those that did not come back. It's a surrogate grave, if you like, because most of them didn't return. They were buried overseas on the Gallipoli Peninsula in Flanders and Belgium.
Graham Pettit has a personal connection with two of the trees, as a descendant of Harry Pettit and Hobart Seymour.
It shows that we still have that love for them, we still have that respect for them. And also the younger members of the family, they can appreciate the history of the family.
The avenue has been restored after a period of neglect, but there's one last hurdle to jump, the Tasman Highway, a bridge linking the memorial walk to the cenotaph nearing completion.
Look, I think that's well overdue, and it's very exciting that in this year, the centenary of the signing of the armistice, that's will be dedicated and blessed and unveiled on the 11th of November this year.
A project of remembrance 100 years old and still growing. Michael Breen, Southern Cross News.
Green thumbs were treated to a visit from an Australian gardening guru today, stopping by Ravenswood to talk about the benefits of compost and worm farming as part of the Tamar Valley Peace Festival.
It's about getting food scraps out of the bin because they're a resource. When they're mixed into the bin, they're a messy waste. But once we take them out and see them as a resource, and we show people how they can compost them, turn them into castings to grow plants, to grow food, to save money.
The Gardening Australia host says a community garden is also a great way to bring people together. Let's take a look at the day's business and finance news with thanks to Tasplan, your local super fund. The Australian share market has closed slightly lower, dragged down by losses for the banks and the materials sector. The ASX 200 index fell 6.1 points. A short time ago, the Australian dollar was trading at 73.63 US cents and 109.44 New Zealand cents.
After copping a fine from the TSL for criticising the umpires, Tigers coach Trent Bomella says coverage of the league is at risk of becoming vanilla. He fears players and coaches will turn into robots handcuffed by what they can and can't say. After his Tigers lost to Lauderdale by a single point, Trent Bomella had this to say.
This is the best competition in the state. You know, we're playing senior state league footy and the umpiring is probably at an old scholar's standard. They need to come up to the level of the players and the level of the competition because at the moment it's poor.
And the TSL came down, fining Bomella for behaviour detrimental to football.
You guys want us to come up here with a bit of personality, don't you? And a bit of, you know, promote the game. But sometimes we've got handcuffs on us.
Bomella stands by his comments but smoothed it over with the league's management this week, although he fears it sets a precedent for cliché comments.
We don't want to be robots up here, or robots with what we say after a game.
He'll need a superhuman effort from his Tigers this week against Glenorchy. Paul Kennedy weighing in on the umpiring debate.
Where there's areas they can improve, let's go through the proper process and point that out. This isn't a reflection, I'm not having a crack at Trent by any means, I understand his feelings on it too, but my view is let's support the umpires as much as we can.
His Pies belted North Hobart last week, and it doesn't get any easier for the D's in a top versus bottom bout against North Launceston. But the D's coach didn't let his players off lightly at training after their 24-goal walkover.
We need to crack the whip a bit and let them well aware of what standards we want as a footy club, and we won't tolerate that type of performance on the weekend. So, yeah, Tuesday was solid.
They're red-blooded rivals any time of the year, but this weekend's derby between Launceston City and the Northern Rangers has a bit of added spice. A Rangers win will likely end City's season as the side tries to cling on in the title race. City's Canadian goalie Nico Giantsopoulos isn't scared of the Rangers' recent run of form.
It's kind of ironic because at the beginning of the year, I think our goal is just to be competitive in every game. Obviously, goals change when results do go your way, so now our goal is to win a league championship.
While fan favourite AD, who stirred up this celebration last time they met, has an encore performance lined up should he score.
Well, I was more celebration as we go along.
Have you got anything in mind?
Yeah, I do have something in mind actually.
Tomorrow's match is also the third and final clash in the Challenge Cup. The popular Burnie 10 has a new naming rights sponsor. The event will now be known as the Heritage Burnie 10, replacing the previous sponsor B&E. The local cheesemaker has previously been a major partner. More than $16,000 in prize money is up for grabs in the run. And it might be cold here, but spare a thought for Tassie rider Nathan Earl, who is currently sweating it out in 45-degree heat in the Tour of Portugal. Water tankers are being used to cool riders down, with one cyclist abandoning the race due to dizziness and dehydration. Earl has safely finished 2 of the Tour's 12 stages.
Good evening. 17 degrees today in Hobart, Launceston, Burnie and Devonport all reached a top of 14 degrees. 17 for Strawn, Campania and Grove, 16 degrees on Flinders Island. Smithton reached a top of 15. Low Head, Scottsdale and Fingal all 13 degrees, 12 at Sheffield. Looking onto the charts, high cloud over Tasmania today, just some low scattered cloud visible if you look through the gaps. A prefrontal band over the state extends into Victoria and New South Wales. A low sits south of the Bight, extending some clouds over WA with patchy low cloud over the north of the continent. A cold front approaches Tasmania tomorrow, extending to South Australia, while a high dominates the remainder. On the waters, west to northwesterly winds 15 to 25 knots, reaching 30 in the northeast, shifting later and reaching 30 knots in the west, with seas between 2 and 3 metres. And there is a strong wind warning current for western and northern coastal waters from Southeast Cape to St Helens Point. To the forecast tomorrow, Hobart partly cloudy 16, 13 for Medina, 12 degrees for Oatlands, light rain expected. Rain through the north, 13 in Launceston, Devonport, also 13, 7 for Lyowini. Rain for the northwest, 13 degrees for Burnie, Strawn and Marrawar, with a top of 15 for St Helens, Swansea and Orford. Statewide rain expected on Sunday for most parts. Rain again on Monday for all areas, with conditions improving just slightly on Tuesday with some dry weather across the southeast, but late showers elsewhere. Around the major centres, showers easing for Perth, 16 degrees, 17 for Adelaide, cloudy in Melbourne, 15, sunny conditions for Sydney, 21, with a sunny 32 for Darwin.